Blessed love and peace. This is an addendum to the recent joint. Speaking specifically about the stigmatization of particularly masturbation, but just the notion in general of a man not being able to get a woman, or the perception of a man not being able to get a woman. This is something that's very strong within society and male culture. Men valuing and leveling, ranking each other accordingly. It shows the evidence of predatory culture, perceiving women as objects, and we can actually evidence this within non-predatory species of animal in the animal realm. Somewhat so. There is a social hierarchy amongst non-predators. Kind of sort of have to think about an example of that. There is valuation in terms of the mating process, but that's simply just like the woman making a decision between different men. So it's different than the males valuing each other based upon the promiscuity of the men accordingly. But all that being said, it's an actuality within society across the ethnicities, or across many of the ethnicities around the world, civilizations, societies. And so there's that. It's predatory. The other thing also is that there's a very low, it's a low class kind of thing. And that, I don't mean to sound pejorative or derogatory, but it's only one way of valuing a man. And in the hierarchy of society, those who are wielding power within society, earthly power, there are other ways of valuing a man, whether it's his pedigree, whether it's his bank account, whether it's his land holdings, whether it's his status within the nobility, the monarchy, whatever, whether it's his knowledge, his learning, otherwise, lineage or whatever. Those are other ways of valuing, other than because when a man has those types of credentials, the women are given to him. So it's not even a question about what he gets. So, like, again, it's further like a blue collar thing where men don't have much value other than that. And so much like a prostitute only having her body to gain material gain, oftentimes for men valuing each other along those lines, it's only because that's pretty much all that the men have to offer compared to what other men have. Anyways, we are taught in our spiritual path that there's the teaching from El Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, Malcolm X, particularly articulated within the film, the biopic of his life, where he says that any man can get a woman. That doesn't mean nothing. The significant consideration is whether a man can take care of a woman, can commit to a woman, can provide for a woman, and provide security and comfort for a woman, to raise children in a responsible way, to provide a positive example for the children. That's something for a man to value himself, and for other men to respect within another man, not just if he can run up in however many tens he can find or whatever, Riz and all that other type of stuff. That's bullshit. And again, those who it's a slave mentality, because it's predatory, but it's also slave, because it's valuing each other on very base premises, in unvirtuous, immoral type of activity, and then harmfulness towards women, and creating conditions of insecurity, fear, anxiety, jealousy, all these other types of things, and then enveloping people's selves, brethren selves, and sister selves into tangled webs of bonds and feelings and all these other type of stuff. So all that being said, it's still the thing, and even they're grown men who die with these mentalities. So blessed love and peace to all kinfolk. But so in my experience, yes, growing up to this day, masturbation, all that other stuff, very negative stigmatization, and the presumption again, man can't get a woman, this, that, and the other. So, that being said, masturbation is not favorable. Masturbation is hurtful, harmful. It's unhealthy. And as I said before, we can also look at it as exploitation and even rape. And it shows again how significant a woman's power is for a man to do that to himself. And for it to be perceived as volitional. Because in actuality, a man in his right mind does not want to do that. A man would rather have intercourse with the woman, whatever woman he's thinking about. So there's that. So again, masturbation is not favorable. But again, when doing the stigmatization and evaluation, otherwise, to be less or to abstain from being so blindly antagonistic against kinfolk who do that, because it adds to the dissonance within the culture, within the cipher. So something else along these lines. And even today, like, to be honest, I'm uncertain like what the norms within society, regular society, particularly amongst the youth, are. Whether even pornography is perceived as with stigmatization, because it seems like it's increasingly normalized. Like it's perceived as a normal thing, at least within certain elements of society that I observe on the internet. Because even back in my day, when I'm younger and growing up in my adolescent stage and everything, even pornography was perceived as stigmatization, because whoever was watching pornography was just presumed as amongst the men as masturbating. And again, like, what you need pornography for? I want to get a woman. So the notion of pornography being normalized and just being discussed amongst men in that type of respect is a sign of the challenges and the harms that are normalized. And ironically, the fact that it's not stigmatized. But the other thing also, for them brethren that do continue in that practice of just valuing oneself and other men by how many women a man can get. What is the value of that? What's the gain? What does that show? If a man is just running up in women, so what? Like, if he has sex with 20 women in a year and doesn't talk to any of them afterwards, doesn't even see them, doesn't even know their names afterwards, how is that any favorable than him masturbating to 2010s, meaning like 20 very attractive women in the past year on the internet? How is that? How is actually having sexual intercourse any further of a sign? Well, I'm trying to think of because there are ways to answer that, but there's a further point that's being made. Because in actuality, it's all futile. It's all the waste of his semen. It's all the waste of his life force. And he having sex with other women might broker some favor amongst men, and that might have some influence or whatever for a short period. But even then, who is amongst whom does that have influence? And what's the value of that type of influence amongst men who value that? It's nil, because there's very little loyalty. There's very little knowledge about and practice of like things that are enduring, virtuous. Because any dude who's going to value another dude for that, it's a bandwagon type thing. Like, once some other dude arrives who did one number further or one further dime, then there goes the allegiance accordingly. So, um, and it may require a little bit of longevity to see the futility of that type of favor and valuation. The entire crowd of that culture. But when one does have that longevity and one does have that perspective and experience and insight and awareness, um, there's an awareness of what to truly value people for, um, and the futility in those trappings, much like whips and chains and cribs. Well, I'm not going to put cribs in that category, but whips and chains. So, true knowledge, true self. Peace and blessings.